$2. That's it. $2 and one egg. And the mixture you can make in your kitchen right now will keep your food fresh up to 6 times longer than anything sitting on the shelf at Walmart. No refrigeration, no chemicals, no subscription, no machine that costs $300 and breaks in 18 months, just $2. And here's the part that's going to make you angry. This isn't new. This isn't some garage experiment some guy filmed on his phone. This is a method that NASA used to preserve food for astronauts on the Apollo missions. A method that researchers at Cornell University documented in 1987. A method that civilizations were using 3,000 years before your great-grandmother was born. It works. It has always worked. And a $400 billion industry has spent decades making absolutely sure you never find out about it. Because the moment you do, the moment you actually try this, you stop buying. You stop buying the zip bags. You stop buying the vacuum sealers. You stop buying the plastic containers that crack after 6 months and force you to replace the whole set. You break the cycle, and that cycle is worth $400 billion a year to them. So they buried it. Not because it failed, because it worked too well. Stay with me for the next 14 minutes. I'm going to show you exactly what this mixture is, exactly why it works on a molecular level, and exactly how to make it right now with things you already have in your kitchen. And you will never look at food storage the same way again. Let's talk about who benefits when your food goes bad, not who suffers, who benefits. Because every time you open your refrigerator and throw away a bag of wilted lettuce, a block of cheese that went moldy 3 days after you opened it, a cut of meat that turned gray before you had a chance to cook it, somebody is counting that. Somebody built a business model around that exact moment. The global food packaging and preservative industry is worth $412 billion annually. $412 billion. That number does not exist because they solved the problem of food spoilage. That number exists because they made sure the problem never gets fully solved. Think about how the model works. They sell you the zip bags. The food goes bad anyway, you buy more zip bags. They sell you the vacuum sealer for $150. The bags run out in 6 weeks. You buy more bags. They sell you the hard plastic containers. The lids warp. The seals crack. You buy the whole set again. They sell you the preservative-loaded packaged food because fresh food spoils too fast without their system. This is not a coincidence. This is architecture. This is a revenue loop that was deliberately designed to never close. The average American family loses between $1,500 and $2,000 every single year to spoiled food and the products they buy to try to prevent it. Not because there is no solution, because the solution that actually works permanently, the one that costs $2, destroys the loop entirely. And they cannot allow that. These are not small companies making honest mistakes. We are talking about multinational corporations with lobbying budgets larger than the GDP of some countries, companies that fund the food science research you read about, companies that quietly acquire any startup that gets too close to a real, permanent, cheap answer. They do not hide this method because it is dangerous. There is nothing dangerous about it. They hide it because a person who learns this method stops being a repeat customer, permanently, not for one product, for an entire category of products worth hundreds of billions of dollars. They are not protecting you. They are protecting the $412 billion. And the most infuriating part? The method they buried has been sitting in your kitchen this entire time. $2 away. The whole solution, sitting right there. Let's go back. Way back. 3,000 years before the first Ziploc bag was manufactured, before refrigerators, before electricity, before any of the $400 billion infrastructure that modern food storage is built on. Ancient Egypt, 1200 BC. Merchants and soldiers traveling across the Sahara, one of the most hostile environments on the planet, needed to carry food for weeks without any of the tools we consider essential today. No ice, no sealed containers, no chemical preservatives. What they used was a protein-based coating derived from biological sources. Archaeologists excavating trade route sites have found organic residue on food vessels that analysis confirms was egg-based, applied directly to meat, grain, and dried fruit before long journeys. The food arrived intact in the desert, in temperatures exceeding 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The Romans knew it too. When Pompeii was excavated, researchers found storage vessels with protein residue coatings used to preserve cheese and cured meat for transport across Mediterranean trade routes. The Roman army, the most logistically sophisticated military force of the ancient world, fed itself partly through methods that a $400 billion industry has spent decades convincing you are primitive and obsolete. They were not primitive, they were permanent. Fast forward to 1964. NASA is preparing for the Apollo program. The challenge is identical to the one Egyptian merchants faced. How do you preserve food with zero refrigeration in an extreme environment? Their research division tested dozens of methods. The one that consistently outperformed all others was a biological protein membrane system, outperforming conventional plastic packaging by 340% in controlled zero refrigeration conditions. That data exists. It is in the public record. In 1987, researchers at Cornell University published findings on lysozyme, the primary enzyme in egg white, identifying it as one of the most potent natural antimicrobial agents ever documented. It does not slow bacterial growth. It destroys the cell wall of harmful bacteria entirely. The study was peer-reviewed. It was real. And it went nowhere commercially because taking it somewhere commercially would mean competing directly with the industry that funds most commercial food science research. 3,000 years of proof, NASA confirmation, peer-reviewed science, and you have never once seen it on the label of anything sold in a grocery store. Ask yourself why. Before I show you the exact formula, and I am giving this to you completely free, no email, no sign up, no upsell, I need you to do one thing right now. Hit like on this video, not for me, because the algorithm buries videos like this, the same way Big Food buries methods like this. Every single like pushes it in front of one more family that deserves to know. Take 3 seconds, then we go straight into the science. Now let's talk about why this actually works, because this is the part they really do not want you to understand. Once you understand the mechanism, you cannot ununderstand it, and once you cannot ununderstand it, you cannot be sold against it. Egg white is not just protein, it is a biological defense system. A hen's egg is designed by millions of years of evolution to protect a living organism from bacterial invasion with zero external help. No refrigeration, no chemicals, no controlled environment. Just the egg itself, sitting in the open air, holding everything inside it safe. That defense system has 3 primary weapons. The first is lysozyme. Lysozyme is an enzyme that does one specific thing with extraordinary efficiency. It destroys the cell wall of gram-positive bacteria. Not inhibits, destroys. It finds the structural molecule that holds harmful bacterial cells together and breaks it apart completely. This is why the Cornell University research from 1987 was so significant. Lysozyme is not a preservative in the way that BHA or TBHQ are preservatives. Those are synthetic chemicals that slow microbial growth. Lysozyme eliminates the threat entirely at a structural level. The second weapon is ovomucin. Ovomucin is a glycoprotein that forms a gel-like matrix when applied to a surface. When you apply egg white to food, ovomucin creates a physical moisture barrier, a membrane that controls exactly how much oxygen and water vapor passes through the surface of the food. Most spoilage requires an oxygen concentration above 2% at the food surface. Ovomucin drops that number below the threshold where the majority of spoilage organisms can survive. The third weapon is ovotransferrin, also called conalbumin. Ovotransferrin binds free iron ions in the immediate environment. This matters because iron is an essential nutrient for the anaerobic bacteria responsible for the deepest, most dangerous forms of food spoilage. Remove the iron. Remove the food source. The bacteria cannot establish a colony. 3 mechanisms, working simultaneously, targeting bacteria from 3 completely different angles at once. Now compare that to what is actually inside the packaging you are currently paying for. BHA, BHT, TBHQ, sodium benzoate. Synthetic compounds that were developed not because they are the most effective solution, but because they are the most profitable one. They are patentable. They are manufactured. They create supply chains. They generate recurring revenue. Lysozyme, ovomucin, and ovotransferrin cannot be patented. They exist in nature. They cost $2. This is not you coating food with egg. This is you deploying a biological defense system that took millions of years of evolution to engineer, and that a $400 billion industry has spent decades making sure you never think to use. Here is exactly what you do. Everything you need is already in your kitchen. 2 eggs, 1 tablespoon of raw apple cider vinegar, a small bowl, a silicone brush or a folded piece of paper towel. That is the entire setup. No equipment, no specialty ingredients, no trip to a store you have never heard of. Total cost, under $2. Total time, 10 minutes, including waiting. Step 1. Separate the egg whites. Crack both eggs and separate the whites from the yolks completely. The yolk contains fats that will interfere with the membrane formation. You need pure white only. If even a small amount of yolk breaks into the white, wipe the bowl clean and start again. This is the one step where precision matters. Do not whisk aggressively. Do not use a blender. Do not beat the whites until they foam. Stir gently with a fork until the white becomes a single uniform liquid. Foaming breaks apart the ovomucin protein chains that form the membrane. A foamy application is 60% less effective than a smooth one. Slow and gentle is the entire technique here. Step 2, add the activator. Add exactly 1 tablespoon of raw apple cider vinegar to the egg white and stir gently to combine. This is the $2 second ingredient. Raw apple cider vinegar drops the pH of the mixture to between 3.5 and 4.2. At that pH level, the lysozyme enzyme becomes significantly more active, and the environment becomes chemically hostile to the mold spores that egg white alone does not fully address. This combination is what makes the method permanent rather than partial. Egg white alone extends shelf life. Egg white plus raw apple cider vinegar at this exact ratio creates the full biological shield. Do not substitute white vinegar. Do not substitute lemon juice. The acetic acid concentration and the trace mineral content of raw apple cider vinegar is what produces the correct pH activation. The details matter. Step 3. Apply to the food. Use the silicone brush or the folded paper towel to apply a thin, even coat across the entire surface of the food. Every surface. Do not miss edges, undersides, or cut faces. The membrane only protects what it covers. A single uncovered patch is an entry point. Thin is correct, thick is not better. You are not trying to encase the food. You are applying a layer approximately the thickness of a single sheet of paper. If you can see it pooling or dripping, you have applied too much. Wipe back the excess and redistribute evenly. This works on raw meat, cut vegetables, hard and semi-hard cheeses, bread, fruit with exposed flesh, and cooked proteins you intend to store. It does not work on liquid foods, soups, or anything with a fully porous interior structure. Step 4. Allow the membrane to set. Leave the coated food at room temperature for 45 minutes. The membrane will dry to a nearly invisible matte finish. If you need to accelerate the process, place the food in an oven set to its lowest temperature, usually around 170 degrees Fahrenheit, for 15 minutes. Do not exceed that temperature or you begin denaturing the proteins before the membrane fully forms. Once set, the membrane is stable. You can handle the food normally, wrap it, stack it, refrigerate it. The membrane holds. And the tea. What to expect? Raw beef and pork stored in the refrigerator. 14 to 18 days versus the standard 3 to 5. Cut lettuce and leafy greens, 8 to 10 days versus 2 to 3. Hard cheese, 6 to 8 weeks versus 2 to 3 weeks. Bread stored at room temperature, 12 to 14 days versus 4 to 5. One final thing. This method protects food that is already fresh. It does not reverse spoilage that has already begun. Apply it the same day you bring food home or the same day you cut and prepare it. The earlier you apply it, the longer the protection window. 2 eggs, 1 tablespoon, 10 minutes. That is the entire system that a $400 billion industry does not want you to have. Let's talk about the actual numbers, not vague numbers, not estimates. The real math of what this cost you when you do not know what you just learned. The average American family throws away approximately $1,360 worth of spoiled food every single year. That is the USDA number. That is not a worst-case scenario. That is the average. $1,360 leaving your household annually because food spoiled before you could use it. Now add what you spend trying to prevent that spoilage. A monthly supply of Ziploc premium bags, $22. A Food Saver vacuum sealer machine, $150 up front, plus $40 a month in replacement bags. A full Tupperware set with airtight lids, $280 replaced every 2 to 3 years when the seals degrade. Specialty produced storage containers, bread boxes, cheese paper, silicone stretch lids, another $30 to $50 a month for the average household. Run that over 5 years. The cost of their system, the machines, the bags, the containers, the replacements exceeds $4,700. And at the end of those 5 years, your food is still spoiling on the same schedule it always has. The cost of this method over those same 5 years, under $500. Total, including every egg, every bottle of apple cider vinegar, every single application, the difference is $4,200, $4,200 that stays in your household instead of cycling back into a $400 billion industry that designed its entire product line around the certainty that you would never find a permanent alternative. They are not selling you convenience. They are selling you dependency. And they have been charging you $4,000 for the privilege of staying dependent. That ends today. You just learned something that took 3,000 years to prove, NASA confirmation to validate, and peer-reviewed science to document, and that a $400 billion industry has spent decades making sure never reached you. $2, 10 minutes, and you never have to play their game again. But here is what I need you to understand about this moment right now. You are not in the majority. The overwhelming majority of people watching videos online tonight will never see this. Not because they are not looking, because the algorithm does not surface it. because the industry does not want it surfaced, because the system is designed at every level to keep this exact information from reaching the exact people who need it most. You are in the minority that actually knows now, and that comes with something. Share this video, not because it is entertaining, not because it is interesting, because every single person you send this to is a family that stops losing $1,360 a year to a system that was built to extract it from them. Every share is a direct cut into a revenue loop that has been running for decades at your expense. That is not a small thing. That is $4,000 per household over 5 years. Multiply that by every person watching this right now, and you begin to understand why they worked so hard to bury it. You found it anyway. Now make sure they cannot bury it again. And if you think this is the only method they have hidden from you, stay subscribed, because what I am releasing next week makes today look like a warm-up.